Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aidan,
And I'm Jack.
and we are very excited to be joined once again by Cannons head coach Brian Holman. That's right. He loved it so much he just had to come back to talk to us on the bye week. And we could not be more thrilled. I mean, he is just such a delightful human. So I think we'll just kick it over to him.
Yeah, no, he's the star.
Yeah,
Let's just go
absolutely.
right
All
to
right.
it.
Yeah, here's Brian Holman. All right, and we want to give a big thank you to Coach Holman for coming on with us once again as we wind down the regular season here. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, boys. Really fired up to get back on the field, and it's always awesome to spend some time with you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
What did you get up to during this bye week? Obviously, you did not have a game to coach this past weekend.
yeah, nothing in particular. Like it's just a really. I think for me, it's a little bit harder because I would just rather be in that routine
Mm.
and I know the guys. I know the guys who are looking forward to this. I know they needed it a little bit, physically and mentally. So I'm happy that we got it at this time. But nothing in particular. It gives me time to really dive into a little bit more film. Take some time and maybe digest a few things that we're doing or not doing well, or I can dig around with some stats. I can spend some more time paying attention to my wife and my dog and my kids, so I've enjoyed it. I can be occupied, you know, game week by week, whatever. So all
Yeah,
good.
great.
Yeah.
Um, cool. All right. So Jack, I know there's a question you've been dying to ask. Why don't we lead off with that?
Are we gonna see Will Manny this weekend? I coach, I since the day the Whip Snakes released him, I was begging for him to make his return. I was so excited when you signed him. I mean, those Aiden and I grew up Cannons fans, and those mid 2000s teams, there were some lean years in there. But
Yeah.
Will Manny, like I just remember being like middle school, high school, he was my guy. I loved watching him. I was so fired up when you signed him. And obviously it's tough to crack a roster in this league, evident by the fact that he went unsigned for so long.
Yeah.
But it's been 3 weeks now. We haven't seen him. Are we gonna finally see him? What's going on with Will?
I love it, Jack. I appreciate how much you care, and yeah. So Will's doing great. I mean, we talk every week, as you guys know. Will's like a son to me. I mean, we
Yeah.
worked for 5 years together out in Utah, building University of Utah's program. He and Marcus are very good friends. He and Adam are very good friends. You could probably say those three guys are all probably best friends to some degree,
Mhm.
right? So from the personal side, he's doing great. He's got a beautiful new wife. He just bought a brand new house. Their club program, which is their full time business now, is a program that we started. My wife and I started with the boys when we were out there, and we transferred that over to Will and Adam, and they're just killing it in Utah. I think we'll see a lot of those kids Friday night
Oh yeah,
at the game.
absolutely.
So from that perspective, he's doing great. And so Jack, to answer your question, it is hard. It is hard. I what I would turn it around, and this is what I do with our staff, right? So if you ask me a question like, why wouldn't we play Will? What I would do is I'm going to treat you like an assistant coach, and I'm going to say, well, who are we not dressing if we put Will in the lineup? Um, so I would like I would like you to think that way, right? And
Mhm.
kind of answer that question if you want to with me, because that's what you have to do, right? You've got to kind of flip it around, and the personal side of it and the emotional side of it. Yeah, I know how much he's meant to the Cannons. I know how much he means to me and my family and Marcus, and I know I would love to put him out there, but at the end of the day, am I going to look at Alex Verdaro and say, Alex, you're not dressing this week? I mean, that kid's playing lights out right now.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
a matchup problem all over the field, And am I going to look at Pat Cavanaugh, who's finally starting to get healthy, and say, hey, Pat, you're not playing this week? I'm not sure that's the wisest thing for us to do. I'm not going to look at Ryan Drenner. I'm not going to look at Chris Aslanian is playing some phenomenal lacrosse for us right now. So they all have roles, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we look at it. And, I'm with you, bud. If I could make it work, I would. But if they give us a 20 slot here in the next week or two, Will's going to be dressing and being on the team. So, and I think the other thing to think about too, and not to belabor the point, is, and this is a talk I had with Coach Mitch this week actually. There's trying to look at that third attack spot, right, with Pat over there, and obviously he's not a true lefty.
Right.
But when you look at our offense and how we stack up right now, we're second in the league. We're like tied for second in the league in overall efficiency. We're tied for second in the league in overall points per game productivity. We've got 2 out of the top 10 scores. Marcus will probably be in the top 5 or 6 this weekend if he scores a few. We've got the leading midfield scorer in the country right now, tied. And if you look at Connor Kirst and Jeff Trainer, how I look at them as one person, right? With the roles that they play, they would be combined the second leading midfield scorer in the country, along with Matt Campbell. So when you start looking at our numbers and our offensive efficiency, and we're doing pretty dang good as it is. So that's my point, right? So what am I going to do for Will just to put him in there, and just for the sake of doing it? That doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So that's kind of all the thought processes we go through, you guys, and it really is not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely.
You got to take the emotional piece of it, and I have to do it, and I've got to just be focused on. And the last piece of that is I'm very, very, very loyal to the guys that we have, and these guys have been through the wars with us so far this year, and they're growing and they're getting better every week. So you never say never, and that's the conversation I had with Will when we signed him. Is like, you need to be ready for anything. There are no promises, and there are certainly no guarantees, and I know he will be. So we got a lot of lacrosse in front of us, and if it so happens that he needs to be in there, and he's and we have a decision to make that's the right decision for the team to put him in there, we'll put him in there. So
Yeah.
long answer, but it's a great question.
Yeah. And that was a great answer. I think it makes a lot of sense. That's something that Aidan and I have certainly talked about, that the fan in me wants to see Will Manny, but I don't know where he logistically fits in. And I guess to that point from looking at things from the tactical perspective, how did that signing come about? And if it's so hard to find him on the roster, kind of what led you to make the decision to sign him if you weren't sure if he would actually crack the roster?
Yeah, I didn't know that, right? So when you look at, like every week, I just comb through the guys that are available, right? And obviously I knew right when Will was not going to play for the Whip Snakes. I was one of the first people that he called, because we have a really, really strong relationship off the field. And we just talked through it. It was a very emotional time for him and kind of confusing. And what I told him was, like, he needed to really let the dust settle, and get his head straight, and not rush into a decision, and just because I need to get back or I want to play or whatever. So he took time off, and I talked to him every week as that time was going on. But to answer your question, is when I felt and he felt he was mentally in a really good spot, that he was going to be productive, then we started having conversations about him being part of our organization, and what that would look like. Okay. So the reason why we brought him on is twofold. you never know like what was going to happen. I didn't know if Pat was going to come back this season. He had some issues that, it's kind of touch and go there a little bit. Obviously, Matt had some moments for us, but Matt's production was really inconsistent. He knew it. I knew it. So the thought of Pat not coming back and potentially Matt not really playing as well as he could or maybe should, then who would we go out there and find, or who could we bring in that would kind of anchor that spot if we had to go in that direction? So that was kind of the thought process. But first and foremost, I wanted to make sure Will was mentally in a really good spot. And when we got there, then those conversations became a lot easier. But I wasn't going to do anything with him until we knew that he was in a good place. And he is. He's a true professional. And he will be ready if and when he's ever needed for us right now. I do know that.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and we hope it's not, because that probably means that someone with the last name Kavanaugh got hurt. But
right.
No, we hope we see that. I guess we wear number 0 for you guys. We would love to see that 0, whether it's training camp next year or something. But or at the very least, hopefully he makes the trip out to Foxborough. Or he lives in Salt Lake now, so I'm sure we'll see him on the sideline for you guys this week.
For sure.
Yeah. Maybe pivoting a little bit more to Utah. Pretty good year for the team so far. I think probably about aligned with expectations is having you guys up at the top of the standings. What are you focusing on going into this last week of the year and then towards that break before the playoffs?
Yeah, and we just continue down our path, right? We're in constant search of being better. And the thing we haven't really talked about is the playoffs. Who we're playing, who we're not playing, who if we win on Saturday, who we lose, all that stuff. All of that's going to kind of take its course. We're going to go into Friday night's game and try to correct some of the things that we haven't really done well over the last couple of weeks. And I think that's easy to point out. We've had some serious lapses, which is uncharacteristic of us a little bit. I think the Whipsnakes game was really uncharacteristic. The Outlaws actually played, a really good first half. And, we came out and played type of half of lacrosse that we're capable of. And I think that showed. And that was a really good lacrosse game. I'm not taking anything away from the Whipsnakes. They're playing very good lacrosse right now. You guys can see that. They're probably the hottest team in the PLL at this point. But that being said, I don't think we were engaged in the first 10 to 12 minutes of that game like we normally are. We made some uncharacteristic mental errors. That's really not like us. There's 2 games since I've been the coach of the Cannons that mentally thought we were a little out of whack. The other game is the Water Dogs playoff game of a year ago. I thought we were out of sorts and we never could find our way to get back into sorts. The Whipsnakes, very same thing, but what I'm really proud of is that we found a way to get back into sorts, right? And that's a sign of growth. And don't lose sight of this, okay? And I'm not making any excuses. You know me, it's in our binder. There are no excuses in our program. But, it wasn't very long ago that we were we were a very, very bad lacrosse team, very bad organization. And my message to the team and everybody in our group is that this is a process, and it's a process of continued growth and overcoming hurdles and challenges along the way to get to that final day. Like it doesn't just happen overnight. Okay. And I feel like some of the things that we've been challenged with this year have shown great progress towards that process, right? We've won games in multiple ways, right? Off of face-offs, in overtime, coming from behind, holding a lead at the end of the game. You name it, we've kind of had to navigate through it this year. So I'm really proud of that, and I think all of that's going to bode well for us as we move through into this playoff season. So I think we're right where we should be. We're getting more confidence on offense from younger guys. Pat is healthy; he's going to give us a different look. the defense has been an anchor at most of the times this year, but they've struggled a little bit in some halves in the last 2 games. So we're going to work on some consistency this week. Start fast, continue to play fast, and not look back. So all those things are kind of jumbled into going into this weekend, and we're going to play the chaos. We know we're in the playoffs, but it really doesn't matter. We're going to play them the same way we would always play them.
Right.
We're going to fight for every inch, and we're going to try to get better in this game and take that momentum into the second when we come up to Foxborough.
Yeah. Oh, and the Chaos haven't clinched the playoff spot yet, so you're absolutely getting their best.
Absolutely, 100. And we wouldn't want it any other way. You know that. Like that's how you iron sharpens iron. People don't want to play against a bad Cannons team, and we don't want to play against the bad Chaos team. So we're going to go out there and battle it, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely keep your guard up if Ian McKay is in the area.
Ian's a feisty one. I like him.
Yeah, he sure is.
I tried to get him in free agency a couple of years ago, but he stayed with the Chaos. So
yeah, no, I think Boston would definitely love him if he ever
yeah,
came.
yeah.
Oh, true.
Yeah, he fits the narrative.
Yeah, probably for the Bruins too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about, playing at Gillette, I know you said that you kind of let the playoffs be the playoffs. Everything will happen how it's supposed to happen. But did you give any thought going into the season or throughout the season about whether you wanted that 1 seed in the bye? Because on the one hand, you think that the bye is supposed to be a good thing, but given that, especially because you guys are playing Friday night and then the quarterfinals are on a Monday, you're already going 2.5 weeks between a game. So it ends up being 3.5 weeks, 3 weeks. If you get that bye, which when you guys don't have a lot of time together, obviously that could lead to rust or something like that. So was that sort of I know you're not going to go out and there try to lose and not be the number 1 seed, but did you have kind of a preference or sort of thought as to, we really want the bye, or we're actually kind of happy that if we don't get the bye?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would be lying to you if I said at some point I didn't think about it, right? At some point it crossed my mind. But as you guys are starting to get to know me now, I'm just a big believer in controlling what you can control, right? So, I'll tell you a funny story. So, I probably shouldn't share this with you, but I am anyhow, because it's kind of funny. I was talking to Andrew Manning last week. He works for the PLL, and he does a coaches call every week with all the coaches. He's kind of our liaison with the upper, so anyhow, he called and said that if you did get the first round bye, the league now is going to fly the teams in to Foxborough for practice on Saturday and Sunday up in Foxborough.
Fantastic.
I didn't know that, so I was like, dang, Andrew, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have thrown the Whip Snakes game. Would not get the bye, and we would have practice. But no, we didn't throw the Whip Snakes game.
No.
But so to answer your question, Jack, I honestly, I'll tell you another story. After the Whip Snakes game, I was visiting with a really dear friend of mine. Don Zimmerman was the coach at Johns Hopkins University for a long time, won 3 national championships, a wonderful, wonderful coach, coached at UMBC for years. And I saw Zim after the game, and we were talking, and I was explaining to him how the playoffs work and that we probably now wouldn't get the first round bye. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And I told him the time frame and he was like, well, shit, you didn't want that anyhow, did you? And I said, no, I really didn't think about it that much. And so I think people have different opinions on it. I know that we're not going to get it unless something absolutely crazy happens. So we're right where the good Lord wants us to be. That's kind of how I view everything. If he wanted us to have that bye, we'd have it. He doesn't. So now we got to play a first round team, and that'll be the best thing for us, because that's what's in front of us, right? So
Yeah.
But yeah, I've thought about it. I just didn't spend a whole lot of time,
Hmm.
worrying about it, because at the end of the day, it was all going to take care of itself one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it has. So
Certainly from a fan perspective, Jack and I are very glad we will get to see you guys in Foxborough. It would have been, I'm sure we would have gone anyway because we're lacrosse nuts, but it would have been a little bittersweet to not have you guys there. Although
yeah,
knowing they're practicing, that would have been a nice consolation.
I agree. I agree. Now that it's kind of set up that way, I know our boys will be excited, and I know I'm excited. Anytime we can go back up there and play, I don't,
Yeah.
and especially in a playoff game, why not?
Yeah. Oh, the atmosphere there is going to be
Oh,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, talking about playing in front of the fans, it, you've had a little bit of time now to digest since homecoming, or I don't know. I mean, you're so focused on the season still and every week, so I don't know if you actually have had much time to reflect or digest. But do you have sort of any, I guess, lingering thoughts or takeaways from homecoming now that it is kind of a little bit more in the rear view mirror?
Not a ton, because you're right. I don't. Right after the season's over, usually a week or two after, it's kind of I sit down and just start writing notes of my thoughts of what the season was like, and not so much even lacrosse, just my feelings about the season and where things were good and or not so good, and what we can do better. So, um, but I'll just keep going back to what I said earlier, Jack. That was one of the coolest experiences. I've been around a lot of lacrosse, and I've been in a lot of big games. Um, that ranks up there, with just the emotional piece. I'm not sure that we win the second game without that crowd and that feeling. The only thing that I'm sorry about is that we didn't win both. I'll give credit to the Redwoods. I thought they played a heck of a game, on the Friday night, and we had them, and we, again, this is a learning lesson. We had an opportunity to kind of, I think bury them a little bit. I think they were right on the ropes, and we didn't. And that was something that we've talked about as a team, that we need to do a better job of. But no, I thought it was a great experience. I can't wait to do it again next year, and I can't wait to get to Gillette, no matter who we're playing, because I know that core group of fans is going to be there, and they're going to be loud, and they're going to be supportive, and it's going to be a home game for us. I know that, so I'm excited.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I
Yeah.
got to think of the I guess it's what, three potential teams you could wind up playing. They're all hoping that they're not getting the Cannons because that'll definitely, like, they'll be public enemy number one for
Let's
Labor Day
go.
weekend.
I'm counting on you,
Absolutely.
boys. I'm counting
Oh
on
yeah.
you.
Yeah, we're gonna bring the juice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Probably won't make it down to Long Island for the semis, but uh yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be an electric atmosphere every time you guys come up here.
For sure. Yeah.
Um, can't wait till you're here, 8 times a year, 5 times a year, whatever it is
Yeah.
when that
Yeah.
transition.
That would be cool for
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Um, so obviously a big story for the Cannons at the start of the year, from training camp was Jack Healty going down. Really an irreplaceable presence, and I think we definitely felt that in that week 1 game against the Atlas. And the turnaround the defense has made since then is incredible. I was wondering if you could talk for a little bit about what Keelty means on the sideline, because I know I've seen him basically being an assistant coach for a lot of those games, um, and just how that defense has evolved and come together over the course of the year.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, it's hard for me to even talk about Jack. Sometimes I get emotional. He typifies everything that we want, in our program. He is a tough nut, man. He holds himself up to an extremely high standard, and therefore he holds everybody else up to those highest of standards, and he does it in a really in a remarkable way. He's not a loud guy. He's not an in your face guy. He's a do it, but if you're not pulling your rope, he has an ability to just get in you, and you respond. So yeah, losing him was, again, I look around the league, and again, we don't talk about this much because there's nothing you can do about it. But losing him and then losing Jake Pulver that same week, and then losing John Donville, we lost 3 starters, and I don't think there's a team in the league that had 3 starters and two starters for the whole season. Like, there's not a team in the league that I know of that lost 2 incredibly productive players, 2 of their best players for the whole season. So I'm proud of our guys for not letting that get in the way. But going back to Jack, yeah, he's just 100% committed. He's like, when he shows up, he's paying his own way. Like, he pays for the airline ticket. He pays for this hotel room. It's not on the PLL. It's not, the teams aren't paying for it. It just shows you how committed he is, and he loves his team to death. So, when we see him, it's an emotional lift for us. And then his added boost is his knowledge. He's so smart. He studies film. He and Garrett Epple are I've again been around a lot of players. I've never seen 2 players study film at the extent that those 2 guys do. And so there's no it's no shock on why they're so good, right? They're so dedicated to the craft. But he's he's an emotional lift for us, and he's extreme value when he's with us in these games. And then to answer the second part of your question is, I want to mention Kyle Hartzell, because Hartsey came in. Mikey did a phenomenal job for us last year, and Mikey is a wonderful, wonderful coach. And I was really worried when he couldn't come back. He's got 2 beautiful kids. He's got a head coach of Christopher Newport. He's got a lot on his plate. It was really tough for him to do that last summer, but it was also tough for him to leave because he loves us. He still participates in our film sessions. He still is on our group text. So he's a cannon. He's still a coach for us. But bringing Hartsey in and then watching him progress. Oh, like, Kyle was a wonderful player, right? And he's a very good coach. But being a great player doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to be a good coach, right? But he is the same work ethic into coaching that he did at playing. Like, he's obsessed with the film work. He's obsessed with the details. He's obsessed with game planning. So a large part of the credit of the progress of our defense goes to Kyle, and just continuing to reinforce what the Cannons want to look like, how we want to play. And then I think over time, Garrett and Bryce and Cade getting comfortable with each other, which they have, and they have a wonderful relationship. So, we kind of basically had to start all over again on defense. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of where I think we're the 2nd or 3rd ranked defense in the PLL. I know we're number 1 on scores not allowed per possession, which is something that I look at. It's kind of an off-kilter stat, but basically at the end of the day, it's how many possessions teams have against you and how many goals you're allowing, and we're the number 1 team in the league, even based off of other metrics. So I give a ton of credit to Kyle, ton of credit to Garrett, Bryce, Cade, all those guys, Goody, Bubba, Ethan, all just committing to the process of just pushing each other to get better and get better and get better, clean up the mistakes, learn from them, move forward, right? And that's a Cannon way. And having Jack continue to reinforce that with the guys is a big help. So really proud of that group, and can't say enough about them.
Yeah, I just want to touch on probably certainly one of the most fun performances to watch that I got to be there in person for in Fairfield. How on earth did you hold that Atlas attack line to 3 combined points? That is like just a masterclass. Certainly one of the biggest wins of the year, and most fun games to watch. I'd say that along with the 2 wins against the Water Dogs so far.
I can't tell you that because I'm sure we're going to see them at some point in time.
That's true.
Down the road. In my mind, that was our most complete win. I think they're the best team in the league. Not forget the records, but just overall, they're playing the best lacrosse. Them and the Whip Snakes right now are probably playing the best lacrosse in the league. it's just, again, it's just, you know, guys being committed, understanding the game plan, and then being willing to do whatever it took to stay with it. I remember there was a timeout in the second quarter because the game was crazy. It was just back and forth,
Yeah. Oh
back
yeah.
and forth. And part of our game plan you know, was to let, you know, kind of some other people, you know, have to score, and they were, right. So it was, there was a timeout, and our defense, I could see him was, they were starting to question, like, is this really going to work, right? And I stepped into the huddle and I just said, you know, slow and steady, right? You know, stick to the plan. Let's just stay with it. All right, over 48 minutes plus, and we'll see how it turns out. And you know, luckily it turned out in our favor. But I think for the most part, we've been a very consistent and solid defense. Take 5 minutes of the Outlaws game out of play, and really take 10 minutes of the Whipsnakes game. And that wasn't all on our defense. If you look at some of those goals we let up early, there were some transition opportunities in there.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that we uncharacteristically we didn't perform well. So if you take 15 minutes, and that's what, a quarter plus,
Yeah.
our defense has been rock solid outside of those 15 minutes. So I'm excited. I think you have to win with defense if you want to win a championship. And I believe that the group we have down there is capable of competing for a championship for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you've had several games this year where you came out and held the opposition to 0-1, 2 goals for an entire half. And what are you doing at halftime where Kirsty's just coming out, stopping everything? The defense just absolutely clamps them down and gives up 1 goal over 24 minutes. Like, how do you do that in the PLL?
I wish I could tell you I have some kind of magic formula, but honestly, I don't, Jack. I just believe, and our guys believe in each other. Like they do. Like we preach 48 minutes. You have to play. You've seen how you guys watch all these PLL games, man. It is like a roller coaster. I mean, every 5 minutes, every team you're watching looks like the greatest team that's ever played lacrosse, right? And then the next 5 minutes, that same team looks like they couldn't beat a high school team at sometimes, right? It's an amazing thing. And so my whole approach to this has always been is just continue to play, just make the next play. And we do our best not to pay attention to the scoreboard. I thought we caught ourselves looking at it a little bit in the Whipsnakes game in the first half, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit because that's not really how we do things. Then the other thing that we do a good job of is just being real with the guys. Like, when we went in at halftime against the Whipsnakes, one of the first things that we told our guys was, if we eliminate the transition, right, which we typically don't give up a lot of transition. We're probably one of the better teams in the league in defending transition, right? So if you eliminate the transition and we just boil it down to 6-on-6, the score should be 8-6. Like that's real, okay? So let's eliminate all transition in the second half. Let's narrow down into the 6-on-6 sets. And we made a couple of adjustments, which Kyle and Jim are very, very good at. We get together before we get in with the guys, and we just try to pick one or two things that we can change or tweak to be better. And that's all we talk about. We don't cover a myriad of things because they can't take all that in a short period of time, right? So, but I think it's our guys believing that you have to play the full 48. I think they believe in each other. I know they do. And I certainly believe they believe in us when we go in there and we try to point out the things that we can control and get better at, right? And then we come out and let's get after it and take the scoreboard out of play, and let's see if we can win the first 4 minutes, the next 4 minutes, and the next 4 minutes. And when it's all over, we'll look up and hopefully we're on the W side of that thing. And you guys have heard me say that before, and I've been saying it since the day I got the Cannons job. That's always been my approach at coaching. It'll never change. And we just got to continue to bring guys into our organization that want to be coached that way and believe to play that way, and we do. So, and I think that allows us just to stay in these games, right? Not get emotionally distraught. And I always say this, and you guys know, like at the end of this, though, I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like we lose a lacrosse game. I mean, honestly, with life the way it is right now and the world the way it is, is that the worst thing in the world that's going to happen? And if we do lose, we're going to get better from it. And the best thing is going to happen is we win that game. And if we do win, we're going to get better from that. And then hopefully that'll be enough to get us to that last day. And that's our goal in this organization, is to be playing on the last day. And if you get there, all bets are off, right? That's the game where you just let it all hang out, and so yeah.
Really, yeah. Certainly, we hope we'll be seeing you there September 15th, right? Yeah. And,
in Philly.
So.
Yeah, glad Philly will not be in that, so that they have a home game advantage. Yeah, man, if the championship ever was played in Gillette and the Cannons would, yeah,
that'd be fun.
One day, you never
someday.
know.
So talking of guys assimilating to or getting the right guys to fit the culture, you mentioned Vardaro has really been locked in. Kavanaugh is finally healthy. Just how would you assess how the two of them have fit into the team so far? And I guess we could expand it to other additions because there were a number of faces, but specifically the rookies. How do you think they've done in their first year?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job. We have great leadership, man. When you look around, Marcus Holman and Adam Gittleman, Bryce Young, Garrett Epple, Jack Keelties, Zach Goodrich, so those guys make it really comfortable for the young guys to assimilate, right? There's some razzing that they got to get used to. There's some court fines that they have to get used to, but it's done out of love and care and fun. But I'll talk Alex really quick. I got some criticism. I don't really pay much attention to that stuff because most of the people that are criticizing you really have no idea what's going on. Taking him in the second round, but he's a very dynamic lacrosse player, as you guys could see. He's a matchup nightmare in the PLL, and he's a very dedicated kid. He wants to be great. That's for me. That's the biggest thing. Do you really want this, or is this something that you're going to do, right? And he's a kid that wants it. So his progression, I think, has just been on a steady rise because he puts in the work. He watches the film, he asks questions in our film study programs, and he goes out in the field and he works at it. His stepbrother is Gavin Adler, which is pretty neat. So Gavin's, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but Gavin's mom and Alex's dad, or vice versa, both of their spouses died. So they got married and they brought the families together, and it's really kind of a cool thing. So Alex spends a lot of time with Gavin and working out and putting the work in. So he's right where I thought he would be, and I think he's got a lot more juice. Pat, unfortunately, was just so banged up when he came out. And he told me straight up after we had some really long sit downs that, it's been basically 2 years he's played with multiple injuries. And he just needed a break mentally, physically, to step away. And I think that was the right thing. I know it was the right thing that we did with him, is just shut him down. And I told him if it wasn't, we would shut him down for the whole year if it was the right thing to do. Because I just don't want to see him. He loves the game so much. I just want to see him play the way Pat Kavanaugh wants to play. And I think we're going to start to see that. I thought the first game back out in California, he had a goal, but if you really watch the film, he easily could have been 1-2 or 2-1 out there. Then he was 2-1 last week. And again, getting 3 points out of that left-handed attack spot, that ain't bad, right? and I think he's starting to get it. But he's, the future's everything that Pat wants, and I think he's starting to become healthy to the point where he can start playing like Pat. But I'm really proud of both of them. I'm glad they're on our side. They're both going to be great, great, great professionals down the road. So yeah, A plus.
Yeah, I think we totally agree. It was, as amazing of a story as it was tough to see Pat running around with like a fake hamstring made out of an exercise band last year.
Yeah.
Although it definitely helped the celebrity a little bit, but um, yeah, like what Jack had been saying, wanting Will Manny to come into the lineup, I kept thinking, well, but what's best for the future is probably Pat Cavanaugh because the more he plays, the more comfortable he gets. Really, the sky's the limit. I mean, we all saw what he did in college. And not that we can take credit for it, but I do think we should note that before he came on our podcast, Alex Bardaro had 1 goal, and I believe since coming on our podcast, he's had 6. So
let's go. Who else can
Battery bump.
Who else can I send up there?
Anyone you want.
Yeah,
we'll take them all.
Yeah.
What's Mark doing?
Yeah, get him on there. He got shut out last week. Get him on there. That's awesome. What'd you think, Alex, talking to him? What'd you think?
It was, I mean, we definitely got the impression of someone who really wanted to learn and grow and be better. I think had kind of a rookie energy just as far as still kind of finding his place. But I mean, obviously, we can't be more appreciative of you and of him and Jeff and everyone else who in the future comes on and gives us their time to talk about the game we all love.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a kind of a crazy story. Jack was on vacation. You were like on a bus in Martha's Vineyard. I was at my office at work on lunchtime. He was in Seattle.
You had all kinds of things going on.
Just bringing everyone together all over the place. Yeah, it was funny because we saw him the next week at homecoming, and he was telling me, he's like, I can't believe you were doing that on a bus on Martha's Vineyard. I was like, I mean, you wanted to talk to us. Like, I got to make the time. Like,
yeah,
this is awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad we've been able to be in our homes for all the rest of these.
Yeah.
It is a much easier setup here. Yeah. But
that's great.
Yeah. You got anything else, Aidan?
I don't think so. I think, maybe we could just end on a fun one. Do you have any like hidden talents or hobbies that you think the Cannons fans would be interested to know about you?
No, I'm a pretty simple man. I read a lot. I don't want to say a voracious reader, but I'm a big fan of reading. I love music. I'm of all genres. I just think music is a wonderful way to bring people together. And I just honestly I'm just so grateful, man. I just love my life, and I love being a Cannon. And yeah, I'm not nothing that I'm going to shock anybody with out there. I'm too old for that right now. So no.
What are you reading at the moment?
I just got this book. Daniel, I think it's Kahneman, was a professor. It's Thinking Fast and Slow, it's called. And it's really a heavy duty book. So it basically talks about your thought process and how you develop and make decisions on certain things, and that there's a couple of systems that are basically wired into you from past experiences. So what I've tried to do recently is really broaden my horizons in the sense of things like that, looking more into the neuroscience of why you do certain things, where your habits come from, how to break habits, how to build new habits, your thought processes. I think this world's constantly evolving and changing. I want to stay in the coaching game for as long as I can, and I think it's incumbent on me to continue to think of different ways to relate to the younger people. And I also think it's important to make great decisions, right? We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
In our organization, and sometimes you don't even know how you make those decisions, right? What are the thought processes? Can you rewire your brain a little bit to maybe think through things? Going back to your question, Jack, like, why isn't Will playing? Am I thinking through all the linear processes that are would allow me to make the right decision to Will or not to play Will? Because I think that's really important as we continue to build this organization, right? So things like that fascinate me. So that's kind of on the deeper end. And then I always have a religious book in the mix. My faith is really strong, and there's a book out now called The Circle Maker that I read like a chapter every night. Just talks about your faith and how you can draw a bigger circle around that faith with the people that you come in touch with and contact with, and I want to continue to grow in that way and be someone that leads people towards Christ versus someone that pushes them away. So those are the things I'm challenging myself with right now. Be a better thinker, try to be smarter, and be a better Christian. So and then ultimately be a better coach for the Cannons. That's all I really, at the end of the day, care about. And be a better dad, better friend, right? So that's it.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, what is sports and especially coaching, if not making a lot of decisions in rapid succession? I know
Very
when I was
true.
a kid,
Yeah,
I would just get scared,
no
like
doubt.
come at me, I'd have the ball, like, oh no, and then just pass it away. And so a lot of, especially, when I
Yeah.
switched to defense, had the pole, I was like, oh, if I let them get close, they're just gonna check it out of my hand. So getting more comfortable.
Just keep swinging that thing, Aidan. Don't
Yeah.
worry about getting checked. You do the checking.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's one of the main reasons I like defense. I got to lay the body a little bit in ULEX and not be on the receiving end.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Actually, Coach, I got one more random question for you. What I've noticed a lot in the press conferences is you seem to always be holding like a Cannons poker chip. Is there a story behind that, or is that like some lucky little token that you have or something? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. You're very observant. I'm gonna hold on to this one for a while. Okay. It's not really public, but when it does become public, I'll make sure that you guys are the first ones I tell. How's that?
That sounds
So
great.
Okay.
it's something that's, yeah, it's just something that's pertinent to our team and our organization that I don't really want to like blast out there. It's kind of personal on our end. But at some point, we win a championship. I'm going to talk about it, and I'll make sure you guys are the first ones to hear about
All right. That sounds great to us. So Battery fans,
Deal.
Cannons fans, tune back in hopefully this September to hear that story.
Hopefully.
And
Yes.
motorcycles
We're
behind
going to do
my
our best, boys.
Awesome,
We're going to
Coach.
do our best. I promise
Yeah.
you.
That's awesome.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Really appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, yeah, we'll
All
see you in
You're welcome.
Foxborough.
I love you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate the support. Yep. And Boom Squad's gearing up for Salt Lake City, baby. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and then we'll make our way to Foxborough after that. All right.
Yep. We'll be cheering for you.
Can't wait.
Got it. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you.
Yeah, you as well, Coach.
All right.
See ya.
3, 2, 1.
Boom. And thanks again to Brian for coming on. Oh, honestly, I don't even know what to say, Aidan. Brian Holman is just one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. Like he's just
set aside the lacrosse part of it. It's just a wonderful person to talk to.
Just as a human being, like he makes me proud to be the same species.
Yeah.
Like he's just such a great guy. So just yeah, exactly. Just as a human, I'm so glad that he is the coach of my team because it's so easy to root for him. Like he's
how could you not?
Like he is. You talk about wanting your coach to be someone who you'd follow into battle, and like that is a man that I trust my life with. Like, I know that he is going to do his best and do the right thing every single time. And I have full faith in him
Yeah.
leading the charge in anything,
Yeah, but it's
lacrosse or otherwise.
yeah. Oh yeah. I yeah, they are gonna like depending on how much they want the I guess 2 seed in the East versus the 3, like they're like whatever, like doesn't matter what's on the line, they're gonna come out swinging on Friday. Um,
Oh
cannot win.
yeah.
And then, whoever they're matched up with, I think there's a decent chance it'd be the Chaos again, especially if the Cannons win. Um,
Yeah.
which would be really interesting. But just no matter what, and if they play the Whipsnake at some point down the line, like they're gonna learn a lot from that game. And that's not gonna happen again. And obviously they will have played whoever their playoff opponents are at some point earlier this year. Uh,
Right.
so cannot wait to see what he's gonna
And
do.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that the Redwoods will not be in the playoffs. I know that they have not been mathematically eliminated, but it's pretty safe to assume that they won't be in the
Yeah,
playoffs,
it's
which
bold.
means that every single team that they could play in the playoffs, they have already beaten this year. So
Oh yeah.
you could make the argument that the other team then knows how to beat the Cannons, but the Cannons also have a blueprint of what went well for them. So just do it again.
Yeah. I mean, well, pending the results of this chaos game, right? Like they could lose to the chaos and then
Touche.
yeah.
Yes,
But
I meant that it was more of a assuming that they
right.
win this week.
Yeah. So the technically like you said, the Redwoods aren't eliminated, but they would need to win and have the chaos. The best chance would be have the chaos lose. But the Redwoods
Yeah,
goal differential is 22 goals worse. So like you'd say the chaos need to lose by 11, the Redwoods win by 11, or some combination of
like
that and
that.
better. Which
Yeah.
one of those things might happen, not both.
Well, it's just like hypothetically, the Water Dogs could beat New York
Yeah.
and we beat Carolina, then we're both 7-3,
Yeah,
and
that's
it
true.
goes to goal differential. And right now, the difference is 18, I believe.
Uh,
So,
now it
so
is 17.
it's
No, it is
seven.
18. You're right.
It's
Sorry.
18. Yeah.
18. So
Okay. So the goal differential per game for the New York Philly and Boston Carolina would have to be an average of 9.
yeah.
And New York is so good. Philly is so bad. I mean, given it's the PLL, like it would be just like, of course, like friggin'
Yeah.
of course, Philly loses every single one of these games and then finds a way to beat New York at the end of the year. Like that would just be
Yeah. If they lose
so on brand.
if they lose like
But
6 1-goal games and then win the final game of the year by 9, like where were those goals earlier?
exactly, like, but that all that to say that I think the odds of that are
Yeah,
rather
I
low.
think
So it's pretty safe that to say that the Cannons, for all in all likelihood, will be playing in Foxborough.
yeah. Oh, yeah, because the basically the situation is they win, they get this 2 seed in the East. They lose, they get the
Or well, 3 seed overall.
yeah, 3 seed overall. They lose, they get the 3 seed in the East. Probably, yeah, it would be 4 seed overall. Yeah, it would be four
Yeah,
seed overall.
probably. Yeah,
No,
if they lose, I think likely the Whips are above them.
yeah, because the Whips goal differential is 1 goal better. Um, so I mean, if the I don't know what the
Oh
actual
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
if the Cannons lose, then they're definitely losing to the Whips on
yeah,
score differential, which means the Whips probably get 3 and Cannons probably get 4. We don't need to talk
yeah, we're
about
not
that.
we're not
We're not focusing on that right
yeah,
now.
we'll do that in
Well,
more detail on Thursday. Uh, we yeah,
yeah.
supposed to just wrap it up with Brian Holman, but we just can't not talk more about the Cannons. Uh,
So
yeah, so it's all started. We know they're going to give every effort against the chaos, against whoever their opponents are. Um, I am glad they're going to have some rest. I think I said it before that we're probably not going to see a fully healthy Pat Kavanaugh until next season, but just the fact that he's healthier uh,
Mm-hmm.
and tied his best point total, with 3. Yeah, hopefully he takes another stride. That chaos defense and obviously their goalie quite good. But you just want to see a solid outing from everyone. Hopefully they get in the win column because I think that 3 seed would be really nice.
Yeah.
To even if it does mean they wind up playing the chaos 2 weeks in a row. But again, we've gone far afield. Brian Holman is a wonderful person and coach, and we are very grateful he coaches for the Cannons. And then he brought his very talented goal scoring son along with him. And
Yeah.
so thank you
That
again to
no.
Coach Holman.
Yep.
Uh, we hope to see you at West End Johnny's for the Cannons final game of the year, and we hope to see you in person in Foxborough on September 2nd.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
Cannons.
Yeah, but we'll be back on Thursday to preview the
Oh,
Cannons final game of the year.
yes.
So we'll see you then. But until then, go Cannons.
Boom.
Ooh.